There's excuse for Mr. Jesse.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Public hearings?
There are none.
Can I get approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah.
Second.
Second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Remarks and reports from city officials. Mayor Whitfield.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, City Council members, and good evening, Elyria residents. I know we have a very packed agenda tonight, so I only have one item, which is it's truly an honor to be able to have this authority to be able to declare holidays for the city of Elyria. This is special. There hasn't been another national holiday in 30-plus years. And this holiday is particularly special because it marks the day in America where all were made free. Juneteenth marks the last enslaved Americans when they were notified of their freedom in Texas. For many African Americans, we have celebrated Juneteenth in our families and with friends. But this year, I'm proud that our country is acknowledging this holiday as a date that all Americans are encouraged and supported to celebrate. So I have a declaration here, a proclamation I'm going to sign, and it is with this act that I will be making official the declaration of Juneteenth as an official holiday for the city of Elyria to be acknowledged on June 19th, beginning the year of 2022 and beyond. I look forward to working with our community members and organizations to establish and develop celebrations and commemorations for years to come. For those of you who are here for this portion of the celebration, there's refreshments in the lobby as well as some cookies that were baked, some Elyria special cookies. But it's a very special day, and I'm glad to be in this role to acknowledge and declare such a special day for the city of Elyria. So with that, I'm going to officially sign this. And it is now an official holiday in the city of Elyria. That concludes my report, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor Whitfield. Yes, there was some discussion in regards to the finance committee meeting at that night. It was a special night that night to kind of recognize this as a holiday, and so moving forward, we'll participating all over there. So, did anybody want to weigh on that? Yeah. All right. Any more comments, Mayor?
No, thank you. But
right.
Any questions, I'm here for.
All right. Very good. Safety Service Director Brubaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I don't have anything as proud and as exciting as that, but I do have a couple things for you this evening. Friday night was our fireworks after a year off due to the pandemic. And I can say kudos to our Parks and Rec Department, Street Department, and the other departments that supported that, as well as Elyria Police and Elyria Fire. It was a very cool night, but a very good night. And from what I saw and heard, everybody had a great time. So kudos to the citizens of Elyria, as well as our departments in the city. You may have noticed today there was several very large trucks on the Bridge Street Bridge near Pace Auto. They were clearing the log jam that was in the river there that was probably about 60 feet wide. So they'll be out there the next couple of days pulling those logs and debris and trash out of the river so that flow will open back up for us. Also, I think Acting Chief Gall may report on this as well. Next week, we will be picking up our first of our 2 new fire pumper trucks. Next week, around the 12th, I think they'll be going down to pick that up. So we'll hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have a new truck in service. And finally, some kudos to our Public Utilities Department. If you'll bear with me, I received a notification from a resident in the city in regards to one of our employees, Alyssa Edwards, and the fact that she went above and beyond. And the resident says this: the customer called this morning about high consumption letter. She returned the call and was able to see at the tower that he had a continual leakage since April. He kept me on the phone, and as he walked around the house to locate if one of the toilets was running. After some time, he could not find anything. I suggested he turn the shutoff valve to both toilets, and I would call him back after lunch. When I called him back after lunch, I looked at the towers again and was able to see the leak was still going. He confirmed he found the leak. It was in his hot water tank valve. He thanked me for being patient and kind. He also wanted to thank the utility department for sending the letter and the entire city for warning of the leak. He stated had this not been done, he don't know how large his water bill had been. He also stated in the past he did not have a pleasant experience with the Public Utilities Department, but today he was happy and to have been treated kindly. So this goes to the new water meters that were put in over the last couple of years and the ability that our Public Utilities Department has to see when the water's running and when the possibility of a leak is. So kudos to Alyssa Edwards in our Public Utilities Department. And Mr. President, that's all I have unless there's any questions for me.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Brubaker. Is there any questions from Mr. Brubaker in regards to that story, and then anything else? Or the fireworks were fantastic, and like you had said, a joint venture with all the departments and making that a success over and through there. So, very good. Finance Director Plesky.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this time, but I do have a question. There's a ordinance in the packet tonight adopting the 2022 tax budget, and I do believe we need to do this we have to have a public hearing on this ordinance. Typically, that's how we handle this, and it says in the body of the ordinance that a council has held a public hearing.
Mr.
Law Director Deary.
Yes, Mr. Finance Director, that certainly does sound correct. Let me see, what number is that?
Item number 7.
7. Yes, you are correct, and I will get with the clerk's office on this, and I will be in touch with you forthwith, Mr. Director.
So now we'll remove that. Does that need to go out tonight, Ted, or is that a removal, or just give it a,
Well,
should we back up on that and do the public
But you
hearing?
do need this.
It has to be
Immediately.
submitted to Lorraine County Budget Commission by July the 20th.
So that would have to go
Okay.
tonight.
When is our finance director? When's the finance meeting? And Mr. President, we will be tabling this, but I will get with the clerk's office, and we will also talk to Mr. Plesky, and we will schedule this right away to remedy this.
So we'll have to have, okay, we'll coordinate that with the clerk's office and Mr. Plesky to make sure that this gets taken care of on the time that it needs to be submitted.
Thank you.
Mr. Plesky, did you have anything else you wanted to?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Law Director Deary? Your comments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I just want to reiterate, Mr. Brubaker, Safety Service Director's Office, and Parks Department, and all the other city departments was a fabulous job. Friday night, it was nice to see everybody out and about after COVID quarantine. Everybody out enjoying themselves out at West Park, even if it was a little chilly, but it just kept the mosquitoes away. I would request that council would adjourn into executive session on several matters, including a personnel issue, pending litigation, and also potential real estate acquisition. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Law Director Deary. Elyria Police Department, Chief Whiteley.
Good evening. I just have one thing for you. I wanted to make official announcement that I have asked civil service to give a police chief's test, as I intend on retiring probably by the end of the year. That's it.
No. Well, Chief, I know that you and I have had some discussions. I want to thank you tonight, but there will be another more time for that, for your commitment and dedication to the city. We're sad to see you go, but I know this is you're looking for the next journey to endeavor there. So, but thank you. Any questions for Chief Whiteley in regards to that? Any information or anything that's questions in general? Mr. Oswald?
Mr. President, I happened to go to Lorraine's fireworks right on the lake by Lakeview Park. We just left at the time when they were doing their finale, so we were going down Oberlin Avenue. I don't know what kind of calls you got in the city on Friday night, but I could not believe how many police were chasing everybody down the street and everywhere. They were lining up fireworks on the sidewalk. I've never seen anything like it. So did we have any issues like that in the city of Elyria?
Well, we always have issues at fireworks time every year, and we simply don't have enough policemen to police 53,000 people shooting off fireworks, but nothing like you're talking about. But there were some people setting things off.
Thank you, Chief. Assistant Fire Chief Gall. Good. Assistant Safety Service Director Calvert. Any questions from Ms. Calvert? Assistant Safety Director Williams, is Mr. Williams?
No, that's all from our
That's all for your department? Okay, very good. City Engineer, Mr. Schneider. All right. Mr. Corzan, wastewater. Human Resources, Ms. Yousefi. All right, very good. Is there anybody out there that I'm missing? I think I got everybody. All right, very good. President's referrals. Item number 1, community development. Item number 2, planning commission and community development. Item number 3, a joint meeting between community development and finance. Item number 4, a joint meeting between community development and finance. Item number 5, joint meeting between community development and finance. Item number 6, joint community development between community development and finance. Item number 7 is the finance. Item number 8 is the finance. Item number 9 is utility, safety, environment, and finance committees. Item number 10 to utility, safety, environment, and finance committees. Item number 11, utility, safety, and environment, and finance committees. Item number 12, utility, safety, and environment, and finance committees. Item number 13, utility, safety, and environment, and finance committees. Item number 14, utilities, safety, and environment. Item number 15, utility, safety, and environment. Item number 16, utility, safety, and environment. Items 17 through 18 placed in file in the clerk's office. Petitions and remonstrances from the council members.
There are none.
Petitions and remonstrances from the lobby.
Got a couple here. Michael Grega, 107 Loyola Drive. Subject, excessive noise from the Doghouse Bar and Grill near LCC, excuse me.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Mike Grega. Thank you to the council for letting me speak tonight.
Mr. Grega, if you could please, I know you stated your name, please, we need your address, name and address for the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's Michael Grega, 107 Loyola Drive in Elyria.
Yeah, very good. Go ahead, Mr. Grega.
My wife Maria and I are both from Lorain County and have owned houses in Elyria since 1983. 11 years on Pasadena Avenue, 24 years on Huntington Circle, and the last 3 years at 107 Loyola Drive, which we had built on a vacant lot near Antioch Drive. Shortly after we moved to Loyola, the bar formerly known as Rockers on Antioch closed and was for sale for a long time. It was finally sold with the intent of being a sports bar called the Doghouse. After they were open for a while and during the COVID pandemic last year, an outside patio was added along with TVs and speakers. We quickly found that the outside speakers were too loud and met with the owner, Eric, who assured us that he would only use the speakers during sporting events and gave us his number to let him know if it was too loud, and we took him up on that frequently. Earlier this year, they began having live bands or other loud music most Fridays and Saturdays. When this happened, we could hear the bass and drums from inside the doghouse, through our fence, and in our house with all of the windows closed. If we were trying to sleep, we also use a white noise machine, but we could still hear their music. When we asked them again to turn it down, we were told, but it's a live band. Since May of this year, we have reported the doghouse to Elyria Police 4 times and recently made contact with our councilperson, Mr. Oswald. We were told that the first police response was a warning, but the following 3 were either not able to be responded to or the police arrived after the music stopped. The last time I called was on Friday, June 12th at midnight, when we were awakened by guests on the outdoor patio and profanity-laced music pumped out through the speakers. I made no call, but last Thursday, the patio music went on till 12:50 a.m. I know because I was awakened multiple times. We've reminded the owner frequently that they are located in a residential area to no avail. I told him that we would start calling the police and that Elyria has a noise ordinance that they were violating. I'm not sure if he blocked me, but he doesn't respond to us anymore. We decided to build our house in Elyria because we both have parents nearby. It's near shopping that we do, and it's near the freeway, but lately we've started to second guess that choice. Either we stay where we are and be angry most of the time, or we try moving to a different city. It's definitely not fun being angry. We're hoping that something can be done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Greger. I'd ask, I don't know if Chief Whiteley is still here, or if, Chief, could you see him after this, and then either Safety Service Director kind of re-engage those conversations to see if we can't come to some agreement and understanding over there what's supposed to be allowed over and through there. Thank you, Mr. Greger. We'll look into that for you.
Melissa Garga, 376 Wood Lane Avenue. Subject, creation of a volunteer city litter department and/or help with supplies and support.
All right. Hi, my name is Melissa Garza. I live at 376 Woodland Avenue here in Elyria. First off, I would like to say good evening to everybody. Thank you for having me. And I love the new holiday. That's great. Freedom for all, right? Okay. Well, I'm here to talk about the litter, the impact of litter and why it's so important. It impacts us environmentally, medically, mentally, and financially. It's almost $20 billion a year what we spend cleaning up litter once it gets into the rivers and the lakes and the oceans. I'm trying to stop it before it gets there. I do have some support from a few council members, Mrs. Simmons, Mrs. Keys, Mr. Tillett. I did have the honor to speak with the mayor at the farmers market. So I organize a lot. I had to branch off from the Cleanup Elyria. I'm a sisterhood with her now. I'm now general of my group, Gotta Bash That Trash Elyria. This gives me the opportunity to help people in anywhere that needs support, guidance. I have somebody in Lorraine that I'm guiding them. They're starting to clean the beaches. I'm helping, get them, tell them how to do it, how to organize a cleanup and get people involved. And I also have a captain in Ghana, West Africa, and he is he's planting trees. He is creating his own litter army, picking up litter, and also protecting the wildlife. So I'm really proud of that. My efforts have reached worldwide. I would like to have a city litter department created, a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. I have dedicated the rest of my life to this. And when I die, I will not regret a minute of it because it feels really good. And I would be willing to head up the litter department, volunteer my time. It's mainly supplies. Not only do I have to organize the cleanups, find the volunteers, I also have to ask people for supplies and get supplies from this one, from that one, and it's a lot of work, and I enjoy it. But it would help if I had some help with supplies or, the litter department. You just put the calls through to me. When the people say they have a litter problem, I'll go get my team and we'll get the truck and go clean it up. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And Mr. Tolet I have his support. Mrs. Simmons has done things on her own time, and Ms. Keys. And so that's it.
Very good. Well, I think we would all like to be a part of your group to kind of help that. I think that's a great
Thank you.
motivational for what you're and inspiring for what you're trying to do. Because I think if it goes a little bit a long way, is if everyone helps out a little bit
Yes.
to kind of clean up the city. It just it looks good as far as the city.
We lead by example.
Sure.
Others will follow.
Well,
I
very
want
good.
Elyria to be known as the beautiful city.
Very good.
I'm very passionate about it.
Well, I think we'll have a follow-up
I
conversation
love
with
the
the
city.
administration to see if what we can do to kind of be a part of that program and kind of make the city beautify that up. So we appreciate it. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Great, thanks.
All right, sure thing.
Through you, Council President, I just was going to mention that a lot of us have had the calls and conversations around litter, and Councilman Tolet and I had the chance to speak with Melissa. We really saw it as a no-brainer, and figuring out how can the city support, whether it's trash bags, little pickup sticks, whatever we can do to support. So we're looking forward to, figuring that out together.
Yeah, it's just an extension of Pride Day. That's all it is, make it happen. Very good.
Teresa Shea, that's really loud, 519 East Avenue. Reagan and Colleen of the clerk courts were very nice to research the original buy-car program for me. I had no access to it. Last time I was here, I talked about using it for low-income older adults between 60 and 80, but since talking to a number of older people, I think 65 to 80, this gives you, each council person and the mayor should have one of these papers, and I need your help. I have no power, and I need you to call the head of the Lorain County Community Action Agency to see if they will design a low-income program based on this template. I think I'll read my speech now. Because of the pandemic, no new transportation plans materialized were started anew. The few forms of transportation degenerated for those of us low-income, invisible, over 65 to 80 citizens of Elyria. Because there was a void before the pandemic, there is a need for the aged 65 to 80 low-income citizens to be rescued. You as a city can be heroes and rescue us using the Buy Car program. I have tried to speak to the director of the nonprofit for 6 weeks and haven't received a call back. I understand I am just a citizen. The mayor, city council members, and Mr. Brubaker are all acceptable people to call about Elyria funding a Buy Car program for the low-income aged 65 to 80 citizens. It will take a new viewpoint and use of those who have the power and money to keep, I am getting new glasses, you guys, I'm sorry. Money to keep, although the program as is excludes older low-income people, using it as a template for low-income older people, a separate program. It is a growth program in that it asks the client to do certain things and the program fills in the gaps. It is not free cars for seniors. It is a program helping adequate transportation for those low-income people who lack effective transportation. As our city grows and expands, let's make people who have no way of coming out of pandemic and darkness come into hope and light of the American Rescue Plan, helping the older, forgotten, invisible citizens. I ask the mayor, city council members, and Mr. Brubaker to call the person who can work with you to bring this about. And I have a little prayer. We thank God's grace that brought us here. We raise above the do or die and do not die. we sing this song and raise above from dark to light. So please be a part of this and consider that I called one person today, and she hasn't had a car for quite a few years now, and she lost her job because of it, and she's my age. And I told her, I just want to talk to you because I know you'll understand what I'm trying to do. And she said she knows lots of people like us, and it would help them a lot. So I told her, don't tell anybody until the city council decides, and the mayor and all. And I hope you will all work together, even though I don't talk very good anymore, to get this program from the American Rescue Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. Mr. Tolet.
Through you, Mr. President. Ms. Shea, can I ask a question?
Of course. Yes.
And this is a question.
Yes.
Would an Uber-type program be better than car ownership for senior low income because of the cost of insurance and vehicle maintenance?
No, it wouldn't.
Because
it just isn't the same thing at all. I mean, we've all had active lives. Cars work a lot better than trying to, actually a lot of us are really bad at smartphones. Or or like me, I bought a really bad smartphone, so I can't learn on it. So if we're always trying to do that, it's not going to work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that is part of the poverty level, is not having good ones if you're older. So you don't have, it's just much harder.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
Any
you,
more
Ms.
questions?
Thank you, Mr. Shea.
Okay, thank you.
That's all petitions and responses from the lobby.
Reports of standing and special committees.
We have considered the matter of a liquor license transfer request as submitted by Dharma Satya, Inc., to be transferred to Dale's Market and Deli LLC located at 417 Cleveland Street, Elyria, and the city of Elyria does not request a hearing.
Mr. Callahan.
Mr. President, I move this committee report be passed on its first reading.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Committee report number 7. We have considered the matter of a liquor license transfer request as submitted by River Road Venture LTD to be transferred to Elyria Wing Company LLC located at 299 Midway Boulevard, Elyria, and the city of Elyria does not request a hearing.
Mr. Callahan.
Mr. President, I move this committee report be passed on its first reading.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Committee report number 8. That's all from committee reports.
Resolutions, first reading.
Sponsored by Finance, a resolution approving a list submitted by the Safety Service Director for the collection of delinquent inactive utility accounts and directing the Clerk of Council to certify said accounts to Lorain County Auditor.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension, of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2021-14. Sponsored by Finance, a resolution finding that the city has unfit for Elyria City municipal use certain city property and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2021-15. That's all resolutions first reading.
Resolution second reading.
There are none.
Resolution's third reading.
There are none.
Ordinance is first reading.
Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance authorizing the Director of Safety Service to dispose of, by best means possible, city property that is unfit for municipal use and declare an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-103. Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2021-50, known as the 2021 Permanent Appropriations Ordinance, to change funds in various accounts.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called on the suspension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-104. Item number 7, we're tabling. Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance recognizing the Juneteenth holiday and authorizing additional personal holiday time for calendar year 2021 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called on the suspension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-105. Sponsored by Community Development, an ordinance accepting the dedication of certain lands, easements, and rights of way for the installation of streets and utilities as per, okay. We out of order?
I don't know where.
Something stick.
Who's this sponsor?
I'm sorry, this is all clipped together, it's stuck. All right. Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance amending Elyria Codified Ordinances Section 106.04 holidays.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-106. Sponsored by Community Development, an ordinance accepting the dedication of certain lands, easements, and rights of way for the installation of streets and utilities as provided in the final plat of Ridgewater Subdivision Phase 1.
Mr. Callahan.
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question on the suspension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-107. Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the adoption of the Essential Services Program guidelines for the use of funds allocated by the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Callahan.
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declare an emergency.
Second.
Second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-108. Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the adoption of the Small Business Program Assistance Guidelines for the use of funds allocated by the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, and declare an emergency.
Mr. Callahan?
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-109. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the use of 2016 half% income tax capital funds to purchase certain items for various city departments and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-110. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance number 216-6, known as the salary ordinance, to reflect updated wages for certain part-time municipal court employees.
Law Director Deary.
Through you, Mr. President, based on some late in the day information and from municipal court and also in discussions with the finance director's office, I would advise that you get a motion to get this on the floor. We have drafted a revised ordinance to update the effective date for the wages and also to include an emergency clause.
Can I get a motion to waive, to amend the new dates and timelines?
So moved.
And also and also to add an emergency clause.
And an emergency.
Under an emergency clause?
Yes.
Very good.
To the ordinance was already, in substance, except for those revisions, was that which was already served upon council members.
Very good. So that's amending the ordinance that was presented for us with the date and then under suspension of rules and declared an emergency. That's the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis.
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-111. Sponsored by Utility, Safety, and Environment. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the resurfacing of a portion of Abbey Road and declare an emergency.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency. Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-112. Sponsored by Utilities, Safety, and Environment. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the resurfacing of a portion of Burns Road and declare an emergency.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-113. Sponsored by Utilities, Safety, and Environment. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the resurfacing of a portion of Gulf Road and declare an emergency.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-114. Sponsored by Utilities, Safety, and Environment. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement to purchase necessary equipment for the refurbishment of the wastewater pollution control plant, aeration blower number 2, a new variable frequency drive, and a replacement motor, and declare an emergency.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-115. That's all ordinances first reading.
Ordinance is second reading.
There are none.
Ordinance is third reading.
There are none.
Committee calls.
Community Development requests the presence of the Law Director, Safety Service Director, Building Inspector, and Engineer on 7/26, 6 p.m. All items referred. Joint CD Finance requests the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on 7/26 at 6 p.m. All items referred. Finance requests the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Monday, 7/26, immediately following the joint. All items referred. Utility, Safety, and Environment requests the Law Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on 7/14, 6 p.m. All items referred. And Strategic Planning requests the Mayor, Safety Service Director, Auditor, and Solicitor on Tuesday, 8/2, August the 2nd, immediately following council. All items referred.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Excuse me, that'll be on a Monday. Typo.
What was that, Mr. Lacko?
It'll be on Monday. That was a typo. It's not Tuesday.
Okay, thank you. Miscellaneous and unfinished business. Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. President, I just want to make a comment. In our fourth ward, we got a lot of concrete streets, and you know I've brought this up before about our streets. I just want to say that a good comment about Preston Curtis, contacted him about fixing Alexander, and it's something that he really thought that they may not be able to do. He did put a little thought into it. They went over. They scraped out some of the concrete, put some patch down, and I wasn't really not very expecting a whole lot because I knew what he had to work with. When they got done, they did a great job. I called them out on something just recently, and they did a little patchwork, but what they did was when you were driving down the street, they even added a little extra patch in a few other places. So I'm seeing that more. I like to say that they're doing a good job. I still say this, not in issue 6 money. I think we need to find a way in their budget to give them a little bit more money to do a little bit more on the streets so they don't get so bad that we have to do a whole street. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Any other miscellaneous and unfinished business from the council members? All right.
We have the reconsideration of ordinance 2021-102.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to take action to abate the nuisance at 327 Broad Street, Elyria, Ohio, and declare an emergency.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Mitchell, second by Mr. Baird. Is there any discussion? So this is brought up, that the mayor had vetoed this ordinance. Mayor, I'm not sure when day it was. It looks like it was time-stamped on the 23rd of June. And council had a special meeting on June the 14th to discuss the status of the Shane Furniture Building and the condition and disrepair that the building was in based on the conversations from our chief building inspector, the law director's office, and at that time, we felt we have a responsibility to the city and to our citizens and then to those adjacent landowners on either side of that building to move forward with the demolition based on the condemnation order that was handed to us. And in those comments, I think I had said that, you know, if there was an opportunity by any individuals or groups that wanted to kind of pursue that, we would still consider that if there was opportunities to do that. And then the mayor he had his veto, and I understand his position on it, where he was, you know, trying to save the building. We would all want to save the building, but at the cost of what it's going to take to save the building and what estimates were given to some and what we're estimating on the building in itself in its disrepair. And that's saying that's not insurmountable. It still is a possibility. But we have an obligation to make sure that this is taken care of. And there's still a timeline that we need to do for the demolition process as far as going out for bids and having that looked at and reviewed. And in speaking with council members, I feel we all feel the same way that we felt on June the 14th moving forward with that. And so at that time, you know, so at this time, I said I would give way to the mayor because he wanted to make some comments in regards to what his findings were. Now, Mayor, I know that you have a draft here. I don't know if that's up on the board, if you're wanting to have that up on the screen or.
Well, thank you, Council President. I thought I'd give some background in terms of veto and why I chose the veto. As I shared with you all in my letter, our veto was not in any intent to make a judgment call on whether the building should be saved or demolished. You know, the whole purpose of our veto was to allow us and our team to do the due diligence needed to make a well-informed decision on the future of the building. As I shared in my previous presentation with you all at the meeting, we've been involved in these discussions with Julius since January of 2020. And we share in the same concern that our biggest concern is the building catching on fire and the bricks falling, as well as what we just saw in Florida with the building collapsing. Like, we're really sensitive to that stuff. But our second biggest concern is that, you know, the city goes ahead and makes this investment to demolish the building, and we leave this gaping hole in our downtown that we have no control over the redevelopment of it. And, you know, that process, you know, would look like us putting a lien on the property, and then it kind of, in my opinion, will get stuck in this middle place of nobody wanting to touch it because of the lien being on it, the property owner not being able to afford that lien for the cost of the demolition. And then there was just a lot of assumptions in the demolition and what that would cost and take. And we just felt like this needed more time to really be, to bring the experts in. That's why we had the structural engineer. But we understand, and if council can, decides to move forward with the demolition, we're committed to working with the community groups to help redevelop the site. If city council decides to delay the demo and give some time for us to, put the safety pieces in place, which we're gonna have to do anyway, and see if there's some grants out there that we can get, or that the community group can get, we're open for that as well. So we were pretty agnostic about which direction, as much as just making sure we had time so that you all had all the accurate information, because we recognized in the last presentation, as you heard some information, but then you heard the structural engineer kind of make sure that you weren't being overly concerned, especially with bricks falling. I think one of the things you heard is that, in Cleveland, they have to deal with this every year. This is a problem that comes up, and it's going to be an issue that we have to deal with every year with bricks falling. So just making sure things were in context and we weren't being led down a path without all the information. We've had the chance to talk to our insurance company about our exposure in every scenario, whether, city or not. We've gotten a chance to get quotes about a fire alarm system. We've gotten a chance to get quotes about putting the netting around the building to secure the bricks. So we've had, just through this little bit of time we got a chance to get a lot of new information, as well as, we got, the building owner, we've had some conversations with him as well in terms of, again, and I'll say this, and we don't want to give this bill to someone who's never going to pay it, so if they're saying, hey, I can't afford to pay it, then I thought it would be important for council to consider what their actions were, knowing that one pathway could lead to, potentially another public body having control over that site after we've put up all the money to demolish it. So that was, the purpose of vetoing, to have that sort of dialogue, as well as give the community time. And this is their presentation. This ain't my presentation. So this is, this is my first time seeing this as well. I've seen the front page, but so the community folks that are here, this is theirs, but I didn't know if you were going to provide them space to present this. I just seen this tonight as well.
No, I think this is an important decision that we're looking at, and if you've prepared a information piece that is looked upon,
again, through you, Council President, I didn't prepare this. This ain't mine. This is the community groups. Yeah,
right. But what I guess if they want to have this presentation to have on the floor, that's fine. I had spoke with Ms. Kelly Kraus-Mankey a number of times in regards to what this process would be, and if they want to come up and share their vision for it, we'll allow you this time to speak to it.
Hi, my name is Stephen Rice. I live on 226 5th Street in Elyria. I don't want to go through every part of the proposal because we didn't prepare something that could be shared with the public yet, and I think that we will have more to share with the public later. But I just wanted to say, we're a member of the Elyria Community Partnership, which is the new community development corporation being started with the assistance from the mayor's office. And we have been in discussions with a number of people, including historical preservationists, and we think that there's a lot of different financial tools that can be used for the rehabilitation of this building and buildings like it. And there are a lot of buildings like it in downtown Elyria that can use these tools that I don't think really have been used for this type of project before. So those tools include things like historic tax credits, which there's, like state level historic tax credits, there's federal level historic tax credits, there are tax credits for New Market, which specifically are designed to help areas that have been dealing with economic depression or anything like that, and these together can pay for, we think, somewhere between probably 40 to 70% of the cost of rehabilitation, and that's the top level cost of like all rehabilitation on the project. So we the person who I believe there was a grant given to set up the Community Development Corporation. He's already worked on projects like this in the past, and he is interested in taking on this project as well. And the project that he did, I think, was a $68 million project to rehabilitate a hospital into housing and those type of things. So that's sort of what we would like to try. And really, we're not asking for infinite time scale on this. I mean, we're just asking for enough time to explore the possibility. So I'm not sure. I would say we can get you, an answer on how what the feasibility is of this project within the next couple of months here. Like probably, yeah. I mean, I think that we can put together a much more substantial proposal. I mean, I think what we have here is a good piece of work, and I personally put a lot of time into it. But yeah, I mean that's essentially what I'm saying. I think that there's another path here that is not demolition, and that demolition might end up costing more overall to the city than the rehabilitation of this property on its own. So that's all I'll say for now. I don't know if anybody else wanted to. No.
Did anybody have any questions or comments based on Mr. Oswald?
Yeah, I don't want a gaping hole. Okay, I don't want a gaping hole in our community like that. But the thing that bothers me is that this is not a new issue. It's been going on. And now all of a sudden, I know you've gotten a lot of work done in a short period of time. Why wasn't this done a year ago? And here we're on crunch time. And, it's easy to say that we can get this financing, we can get this grant, but are you able to get it? Are they going to accept that? And that's the part I'm leery of that part.
So in specifically the historic tax credits, which I think the Ohio State Historic Tax Credit will count for, I think I might have switched these numbers, but between the Ohio historics and the federal historics, they can account for like around 37%, I think was what we had figured out, which on a project like this, the project would probably, like the full rehabilitation would probably be like $10 million. But that would end up being like $3.7 million there from those programs. We know for a fact that because these programs haven't been taken advantage of in the city of Elyria, that we would probably be eligible for the full 100% of the Ohio State historics. As for like other tax credits, those are. I mean, I'm not the expert on this. Actually, Joel Ratner is the expert on this. He's the one that we're dealing with on these issues. So he would be the person to talk to. In fact, we might be contacting you individually to give you more information on this over the next several weeks or whatever. But yeah, on the historics front, we could definitely get that money. And then I think that we can get a substantial amount of money from these tax credits, because basically how they work is that you take, you get approved for the tax credit and then you auction it off to an investor, and then the investor provides the money. So that's essentially how they work. And once you get the tax credit, there are plenty of people that want to invest in these sort of projects. So, yeah.
And it's been said before about the housing, and there's going to be low income. I'm not in agreement with that. We've got a nice city. Why do we want to keep bringing in low income housing or apartments when we're trying to build up our city? And we've got a lot of low income housing right now in the city of Elyria.
So if you look at the areas that are actually most happening, like the coolest areas in Northeast Ohio, most of them have historic buildings that have taken advantage of programs like this. So if you look at like Ham's Corner, if you look at like the areas in Tremont, a lot of those large buildings that are basically constructed identically to this building, they have taken advantage of programs like this, and there are plenty of there are low-income units that are right next to luxury units in those areas. And the key thing is not the key thing to any downtown is having people living there, because that's the thing that you want to have. Because once you have people living there, it makes the area safer, because there's people in that area at all times. It gives a consistent base of customers that will actually frequent businesses in the downtown. So like those areas, the areas that are because Tremont had a similar problems to Elyria back 15 years ago. I think that we could be a Tremont or an Ohio City in the next 15 years if we started to take advantage of these tax credits, which we're taking advantage of in those areas. And they started about 15 years ago, is what I'd say. So,
thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. I agree with Mr. Oswald that I don't want to see a hole in the downtown. We have enough of that. This is kind of an unusual project. Thing of it is, this has been going on for probably 20 years. It's been in disrepair of some degree, okay? I mean, that didn't happen overnight. So my point of view is, didn't get bad overnight. I don't think you can fix it overnight, okay? So I am more inclined to buy the time, give us more time to go through what the mayor and his team have been working on. I think we need to protect it with the netting, no question. I don't think we can afford to have that kind of liability standing out there, because we've already, our building inspector gave it quite a rough, but accurate, I think. I'm not questioning that. So we need to step back and give it some time. I'm for that. I just think that there's a possibility that it could be some good things. We've got people who are interested, local people who've indicated an interest in putting this together, and these things do work, just as you've mentioned. And I'm hopeful, but we can't go on forever, with this deal. And whatever it takes, city council and the mayor and the citizenry will make the decision on this. So I'm in favor of, I don't know if I'm in favor of overriding the veto or going with the veto. I guess I'm in favor of going along with the veto to hold it, although, as I understand, there'd be some time that would be in there. Is that right, Mr. President? Is that your interpretation?
My interpretation, I guess, at this point would be in that last conversation, I believe on the 14th, and I don't know, has that taken place with the structural engineer to come and review? Because I was under the understanding that whether it needed to come down for demolition or whether it needed to go for a repurpose or repairing or rehabilitating the building, an analysis still needed to be made in doing that.
Yeah, through you, Council President. So yeah, we've had a chance to talk, or Dawn, I should speak to more accurate to this. She's had the chance to talk with the structural engineer. They have a proposal. They're ready to start commencing on doing that work. But if council is voting to demolish the building, then we would let the contractor who we contract with hire that structural engineer to go forth. And the only thing they would be assessing is how to demo the building. They wouldn't be assessing, how it could be rebuilt. They would just be looking, here's how we can safely demolish this and let's get it down. So that's, the purpose why we were saying, all right, let's wait. Let's not hire him, because if you vote to demo, then it won't work. Dawn, did I capture that accurately? Okay.
So the understanding would be, if Mr. Schneider wants to weigh in, so when we put this out for bid, they're going to, the demolition company will hire their own structural engineer and put this package together. Is that correct?
I'm glad we're having this conversation so we can get it out and come to a conclusion on this, Mr. President.
Sure.
Thank you. And I'm glad to hear what Mr. Schneider has to say and Calvert. So we're equally informed. Thank you.
You, Mr. President. Yes, that's one way we could take care of it, is to have the contractor hire a structural engineer to shore up the building as needed. At this time, I do not know what walls support what buildings out there, so that's something that has to be investigated during the bid process and for the contractors to figure out.
But that would be part of our bid.
It's definitely what we were leaning toward. Yes, the option.
Very good. All right, very good. Mr. Farkas, I know that you're in the audience. I'd like to have you kind of weigh in on your report. I think it's important to have those conversations again based on the June 14th meeting and reiterate what your issues and concerns are from
Thank you, Mr. President. Last time I spoke, I gave a brief synopsis of what I discovered during the inspection. I did quote some property maintenance sections. I kept it limited as to what would be considered imminent danger and/or something that could be considered for condemnation. I thought it best to present some photos for the council's use. I guess that would speak 1,000 words in lieu of me speaking to what's wrong. I'm not going to go through all the photos, just some key photos to show the nature of the structure, as it's not just the structural integrity, it's multiple issues of the electrical, the plumbing, the heating. In essence, it's a death by 1,000 cuts. It's not just one thing. As the structural element is part of the concern, there are multiple other issues. Is this good here? This photo here was taken from the roof, looking down, and as you can see, some of the vertical bricks, those are called soldier courses, are bulging outward. This concern was brought up in 2016 by Inspector Langdon in regards to a complaint that received for brick popping out and moving. This photo is a shot of the chimney, and you can see that there's a metal strap used to try to secure the chimney against the structure, and it is obviously leaning outward. And you can see towards this section here that it's already starting to bow and lean. Oh, thank you, Corey. This section here is another one that shows the brick. Obviously, you can see they moved about 3/4 of an inch or more. The mortar has clearly dislodged and is falling down onto the roof below. That's a picture of a tree on the roof. And as I mentioned in my last report, this debris here was from the roof repair that took place on this side. They just stripped this and threw it onto this portion of the roof, increasing the load. This, if I can get the glare, is a shot of one of the rooms, multiple levels, pretty much ditto of this miscellaneous debris. You can see plaster has fallen off the ceiling. You can see the conditions of the walls. This goes hand in hand with the fire department's concern of fire load and fighting a fire from a tactical standpoint. I can defer to Mr. Gall if he wants to speak to that aspect, if you guys wish. Here's another shot of another room completely packed with materials of miscellaneous debris, holes in the plaster. You can see how things are just starting to deteriorate and delaminate. This is a picture of one of the rear rooms where the cement is beginning to decay around the rebar. You can clearly see the deterioration in the penetrations between levels. Now, from a fire standpoint, if something were to break out on this level, it can penetrate through this hole and make it to the second level quite easily, making it difficult for the firemen to control and combat the fire. This is a shot of the missing standpipe that is removed for the fire department to access, plug in their hose for the water to fight the levels above. With this missing, they are unable to fight the fire unless they manually carry the hose up the stairs. And I'll share this last one. I don't know if you can see it. This is an outer wall with a beam that's embedded into the masonry that is extremely decayed and rusting. This is an outer area of the actual same corner with a brick veneer collapsed. So this is most likely due to improper drainage over the years of the building not being properly maintained. Let's see here. And I'll just show this one here. This is, per the property maintenance code, we look at not only some of the structural issues, we look at the overall health and safety. You can see this particular bathroom, complete state of disrepair. Also, with the toiletries not being functional, we are in danger of sewer gas emanating through the building, which can be combustible. So that is one element of life safety we look at. Again, it's just not the structural integrity. And I thought I had one of the basement. I get a second here, I can try to find it. That shows the basement completely submerged. Other than that, I'm open to questions. You guys have any?
Through you,
questions?
Through you, Mr. President.
Law Director Deary.
Thank you. I do have here, just to piggyback on what Mr. Farkas has said, this was delivered to my office on June 25th of this year, was also carbon copied to the Safety Service Director's office and to the Acting Fire Chief, as well as to Attorney Taylor. And this was a referral for my office to take any and all actions pursuant to the law based upon the fact that Mr. Farkas has found this property to be unsafe, dangerous to life, health, property, or safety to the public, and unfit for human occupancy pursuant to the International Property Maintenance Code. And it also does reference in detail not only the building code issues, but also the fire code issues. And note again, this is dated June 25th of 2021. So obviously, I have my marching orders as well. I definitely appreciate what the community partnership is saying, but honestly, the fact that they're saying that they will know more in months makes me want to break out in hives, because I honestly don't know that there are months on this based on the pictures and based on what we are hearing from the fire department, from Mr. Farkas, and honestly what we heard from the representative from Chaos Associates at our last meeting. Mr. Brunick from my office is here. He also has been working very closely with the building department. I can tell you that Attorney Taylor spoke with a representative from the city's insurance, was just inquiring as to the insurability of this building, and it's not going to be a surprise to any of you. This building is not insurable. That's where we are. And also, if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So going back to the Elyria Community Partnership Group, if any of you are able to weigh in on this, what is the timeline if you were to get this historical grants and the process for those to capture those funds? And then is there any private investment in going into this as well as to kind of, because I think that's what I mentioned on the 14th, if there was opportunities out there that you were going to have all these grants on top of partnerships in regards to that, are those funds have been secured or looking into, or is it, if you could please, yeah, put the mic on. There should be the green button there.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so just to be clear, most of what is discussed about the condition of the interior, the exterior brick, this needs to be addressed by the city regardless. I mean, this is not, you cannot avoid addressing that issue. So you have to do that. I mean, it's going to take months to come up with the plan to demolish the building. So it's not, I mean, that's our position on this. We can definitely come up with more in the amount of time it's going to take to figure out how to demolish the building, because this is a much more difficult demolition, I'm pretty sure, than the other buildings that have been demolished in the downtown recently, because it's between existing buildings that you're trying to keep. So, but regardless, you know, you cannot put together a $10 million project in what has essentially been 2 weeks, which is about the amount of time that we've had to work on this. We can find and secure some funds based on the fact that the project exists. These are funds that are they're like exploratory in nature, so they would be a certain amount of money to do estimates on the building and that type of stuff. I mean, there are grants that you can go through in order to figure out, they're basically designed to help you go through the process of putting together a larger project. But the city, in order to avoid its own liability, is going to have to address these external issues. You have to put up netting, you have to address the fire safety concerns regardless. And that will take some time to do. So that's what our position is. I mean, and to be clear, if the project goes ahead, all of the stuff, I mean, the entire interior of the building would be, gutted. I mean, you would have new HVAC, you have new electrical. I mean, the cost that we have in the proposal that we've given is for a full rehabilitation of this building. I mean, that it is to completely, from top to bottom, fix the building. So, but yes, the city has to put in this money anyway. The question is I guess, is the city looking to put in enough money to get it to the point where, to keep it safe until demolition, or is it going to put in, I guess, enough money to, I'm not sure that the time scale is different. I don't know.
Well, to answer the first question, we need to stabilize the outside of the building to make sure that there's no bricks that are going to fall off. And I was kind of recommended on the 14th to have some type of netting, and that still hasn't happened. So who's going to end up paying for that? These are costs that are someone's going to have to pay. There's back taxes on the property. Someone's going to have to pay that. I don't think the historical grants are going to absorb that.
Well, I mean, so if we come up with a feasible plan for actually going forward with the rehabilitation of the building, we can definitely work with the tax authority on that. I mean, like that I don't think that this building is going to be decided whether or not it's demolished over the $18,000 in taxes, which I believe is what it is.
No, but those has to be addressed. Those are issues.
It's certainly true. I mean, like the Elyria Community Partnership, I mean, we are not formed as an organization yet. So once we are formed, we will be able to take a much more active role in this situation right now. I mean, right now, we've been working with Kelly Krasmenke, and she is very willing to help this project along. So, I mean, I don't want to speak. Do you want to say anything?
Sure.
No?
Okay.
No.
Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. So, if I'm hearing you correctly, you have no grants in place. You will be doing that, but as of right now, you have nothing in place. Is that correct? Or you're exploring them?
All right, thank you very much, Mr. President. And
Can you
Ms.
pull
Mitchell?
Ms. Krause, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
It's Kelly Krause-Menke at 716 Park Avenue here in Elyria. And thank you very much for the opportunity to talk and running this meeting late, right? Okay, so to speak to investment dollars, one of the first pieces that I began to explore just after the order of condemnation in spring was the cost of what needed to be done to stabilize the building. In that cost, I had also been working with the city and presenting these numbers and presenting this plan to find a reasonable amount. So in my estimations,
if I may,
yeah.
where did you get your numbers from? Who is presenting you with your numbers? Have you had an engineer go in and give you numbers? Where are you getting these
I can
dollar
absolutely
amounts
state
from?
which contractors I've worked with.
Please?
I can state which contractors I have worked with.
So you've had contractors go into the building?
Yes,
Okay.
with me. And
Okay.
very thankful to the property owners for allowing me to go in so often and also spend so much time there with professionals. So these numbers and the budget completely, along with deconstruction of the building, One of the largest targets up front is historic tax credits. The state is very interested in working with us from investigation, and is very interested in us actually starting some deconstruction from the beginning to evaluate the facade of the building, right? That's a big piece of the project. These dollars look to be about $250,000 to stabilize the building. That means making it safe. That's repairing the brick along the outside and, yes, along the windows, along the window bays, that will also tuck and point along the sides of the building. Those are big concerns, and that was honestly the biggest thing that I saw needed to be addressed immediately, is, right, the lack of safety around the building. And what do you have if you don't have a safe building? And of course, I recognize the inability to insure the building, right? With a condemned building, you just don't have that. So there is a high risk liability here. So in deconstruction, I am very much interested in putting in my own time and dollars to get this project going. I am very interested in getting whatever private money we need up front to stabilize the building until we get to the point, September, where we can begin applications and start to see rewards for grant dollars for historic tax credits from the state. And this progresses in phases. But absolutely, we hold the immediate concern to stabilize the building and to make it safe regarding fire life safety and regarding the brickwork on the outside of the building. Then from there, deconstruction and formation of the restoration and redevelopment of the building.
Ms. Mitchell, did you have a follow-up?
I guess I do. So of all the buildings downtown Elyria, there has to be one in better condition than the Shane building.
Yeah.
So what is so attractive to, and I'm like Mr. Oswald, I don't want to see a gaping hole either, but it doesn't make sense to me to throw good money after bad. That building is in disrepair. It's going to take more than $250,000, I think, and I'm not a contractor.
Well, total, we're looking at $7 to $10 million, absolutely.
So where are you going to get that money from? But back to my original question. Back to my original question. Sure. Why the Shane building? Is there not another building in downtown Elyria that might suit your needs?
Oh, the Shane building, when I honestly wondered that myself when I first took a look at it. That, okay, this is getting a lot of bad attention. You know, sometimes in real estate you can find a good deal with a condemned building, and sometimes it's just a really bad investment. So absolutely, you know, taking a look at that and walking through it, it's a really good space. Tall ceilings, relatively sound structure, and I'm very much looking forward to the structural analysis to see that that's the case. And the potential, because of the size of the floors, for mixed use is really there, especially in an area pretty amazing that right in downtown Elyria, we can take advantage of 5 different tax credit programs in order to make a project like this happen. That we have residents with skills that have come up, very interested, that we have contractors very interested in putting their time, energy, and work into this building, that have all expressed their interest in helping to save history in downtown Elyria as well.
Thank you, Mr. Tourette.
Through you, Mr. President. If you were to receive every single grant, if every single one happened, per your numbers, you're still $4 million short. Have you secured private financing up to this point?
Financing in the form of investment is our more likely path. There are opportunities through Community Finance Fund to do large gap loans, but yes, we are surveying the opportunity for, you know, building a private investment pool as well. Do you want to speak more to that? Can I speak on that part? Sure. Great. Thank you.
So if we were to secure all of those grants, that would be about $6 million. And just to be clear, if you can show that you've secured those grants, you would be able to take out debt in order to fund the rest of the thing. So you could use the building then as collateral, and then you could fund it through that.
If you have a condemned building and you're only 60, because it's been At this point, it's condemned.
Yes.
And you're only 60% of the way there for restoration. I'm surprised.
No, what I'm saying is that if you can show that the rest of the money is there, you would be able to begin the project, and then you would be able to secure the rest of the money because you don't have to have all of the money at the outset of the project. You understand what I'm saying?
No, because in building multiple buildings and homes, I've never seen anything that you went looking for financing in the middle of a project.
Wait, what is it?
You can't collateralize something that isn't complete.
All right, Kelly Cross-Menke, 716 Park Avenue in Elyria. Okay, I'd like to speak to that. So one, in traditional real estate development, absolutely, you need to secure everything up front. You need to understand your market, you need to do the research. We have done market research, and our approach to this is in community development. Some of my background is in community development financing, understand the complexity of community development deals. It is and can be upwards of, a few pages of partners, investment, and it's anywhere from cities to counties, private individuals, public sources, tax credits, and even private financing. And it's that kind of combination of dollars we want to put in to make this project work.
Mr. Davis.
Through you, Mr. Chair, after listening to all those that have commented on the building, I want the fire department to come forward and see if they have any insight. Have they been in the building and what their take on telling us about this building?
Good evening, Council. Fire Marshal Gall, City of Elyria. Historically, this building has lacked proper maintenance, as Mr. Baird has said. It didn't just happen in a few years. It's gone on for decades. We became quite interested about 3 years ago, 2018 to be precise. We performed a fire department company inspection. Fire department officer on engine called the Fire Prevention Bureau. On June 24th, 2018, the fire marshal at that time and chief fire inspector performed an inspection of the building, noted 24 fire code violations. These violations often occurred on various levels, so there were multiple of the same type of violation. Subsequent follow-ups on October 23rd of 2018, and again, February 12th of 19 noted minimal corrections. There was a letter sent to City Prosecutor, Muni Court, Joe Bott, from the Fire Marshal. He outlined our concern and their lack of abatement by the owner. They asked for more time. They went in front of the Ohio Board of Building Appeals in Ashland. 2 of 3 hearings were canceled and rescheduled by the owner. A 3rd meeting proceeded without his attendance. So what we're seeing is the lack of any work to correct deficiencies. Finally, early this year, a group of fire inspectors, city building officials from the building department and safety service office went through and performed an inspection March 15th of this year. And my summary from that, from the individuals that were there, that the building still has not had any improvements or deficiencies corrected. In fact, it's worsened. Time, an exposed building, water has filled the lower basement. So what we have seen is really a a lack of an interest on an owner's part to make corrections. Now, maybe you don't understand what the process would be for our fire department when we go to a call. We have your fire department, when we go to a call, there's 14 men on duty. One is the incident commander. We have 4 drivers per trucks. So out of 14, that leaves 9 firefighters to fight a fire. You saw the pictures. You saw the heavy fire load. You saw missing fire-rated assemblies on the wall. When you look around this building, you see that it's intact. The drywall is up. If there is a fire in Shane, it will spread rapidly throughout the building. And that doesn't even mention the fact that there was a standpipe system. A standpipe system, when a building, any building is built, depending on the use group, an assembly, an educational building, a mercantile, there are certain construction and code requirements. When this building, Shane, was built, it, at one point, through its building, and if there was any remodels through its 100 years, a standpipe was required. This standpipe was never maintained. In fact, it's no longer there. So the code is, they have stripped a fire safety device from the building. What does that mean for the fire department? Well, if we ever went for a fire there, we utilize the standpipe to tie in with our tack lines. It is not expected for your fire department, your group of 9 men, to stretch hose from the pumper on the street up through 3 or 4 floors of a building to attack a fire. The fire would gain headway, and it would not allow us to get close enough to attack that fire. So no standpipe limits our ability to fight the fire. When you look around here again, you see exit signs. They're required. Taking a standpipe and eliminating it is like taking an exit sign from these doors. It's against the law. And they were all noted as part of the violations, these 24 violations, and again, no corrections. I would ask that about, what about liability? When you have an incident there, firefighters are called to help. That's what we do. You have your workers, you have maybe the public. You put us at risk in a building that is already compromised, already falling down, already condemned, and to put us into the mix, I do not want to see my men put in that jeopardy. There would need to be many safeguards in place, and again, historically, they aren't taking those steps to ensure that the slightest and some of the more severe areas that needed attention were corrected. I don't see the willingness to cooperate with our department. They also have not talked about use group. That building has present is a mercantile. Beyond that, if you want to change the use group, there's a plan review process. They would have to submit those plans drawn by an architect to fit the use group. Here we are trying to speculate what we do with this building, and we have no idea even what they want to use it for. We know that where it is now, it's not up to code. And I think with Chief Building Official, he's presented very good pictures and explanation of why, what is wrong with the building. And you even had a architect from K&S come, and he said he can't even get near the building to perform a better check. I think those are all concerns that, as council, you need to look at.
Sure. Thank you,
I'll
Assistant
take
Fire.
your questions.
Thank you, Assistant Chief. Go.
Yeah, thank you.
And then I'm going to call the Assistant.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. There was a couple things I heard there I just want to speak to. One about the structural engineer's comments, and about comments in general. One, I think a part of his assessment was, this is not rare, or this is common that you deal with these sort of building issues, that they deal with them in Cleveland all the time. So that's one piece. I want to make sure that was clear in terms of what he stated. But then the other piece in terms of fire safety, as was just stated, this thing has been going on for years. I mean, this isn't like a last year problem. This is a 2016 problem, if not further back than that. Again, I just think it's important that we contextualize things. I understand there's a lot of a desire to be safe. We share in that same concern. But I just think it's important that we're presenting, and that was the whole purpose of veto. The veto wasn't to say one way or the other. It was like, let's make sure all the accurate information, not hearsay through people, but from the horse's mouth. Here's what the insurance is saying. Here's what the structural engineer is saying. Here's what the folks are saying before we made a decision. So I just would caution us against, again, quoting people when there's already a record of what people have stated.
Thank you, Mayor. Assistant Law Director, I'm sorry, Ms. Keys, did you want to weigh in on a comment?
Yes. A couple comments, not really any questions. I applaud the Elyria Community Partnership for all the work you've done and coming together and doing the research and all your time and effort. But when someone tells me a building is uninsurable, I worry about the exposure to the city. And I also worry about, of course, our safety forces, and I really worry about the buildings on either side of Shane Furniture, and how I would feel if I owned one of those buildings and, God forbid, worst case scenario, something terrible happened and their business is wiped out at the same time. So I guess those are the things that I think about and that I worry about. And I wish maybe this group could have come forward a while ago, because our clock is ticking now,
Sure.
right? So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you, and I think everyone on this council agrees with the Elyria Community Partnership putting the effort and the time to put this together. And, again, I think it's been really well said here tonight is that no one wants to see a hole in the city of Elyria in the downtown. But from a liability standpoint from the city, when the building is condemned, we have actions that we need to take and responsibilities that need to happen. And this is a responsibility that we need to take action on. Now, I'm not saying that, and that's the next question I want to ask City Engineer Schneider. If we move forward with the demolition, we have an outside contractor put this out for bid, what is an estimated timeline for us to come back, that this will be brought back to this council to look at, review, and have that information? Is there a timeline for that?
At this time, I would say the best timeline would be, it's going to take 2 to 3 months, easy. We have to do some environmental, that would have to be cleared as first and foremost, and then from there, we would have to bring contractors in, have them take a look. Once again, they would have to go in there, they would probably have to open up holes to see what's in there, things of that nature, because it'd be difficult to bid on, just what you're looking at, so.
Right. So that would give this Elyria Community Partnership at least 2 to 3 months to gather additional information and secure funding or grants or possibilities of, saving the building. But from my perspective here, based on what I'm hearing, is that I think that we need to move forward with this, the condemnation and demolition of the building. Now, I'm not saying that can't be stopped. If I'm understanding that correctly, if everything is in line, and if that's the 3-month timeline is where we're at, we're thinking that this is going to take to do. If there's a possibility that can happen, I think we should look into that. That's fair. I think if that gives everybody enough time to gather this stuff, sure, that means a lot more work for everybody, but we're looking into that, or we should be looking into that to salvage this building. So, is there anybody on this council that has another comment? Mr. Oswald?
Ms. Calvert?
Ms. Calvert, if you come up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You were compiling some numbers, netting and things. What's the cost, and who's going to pay for that if we originally we got to do the netting just so nobody gets hurt. So have you come up with some firm numbers, what it's going to take to do?
Yes, thank you.
So as was discussed when Mr. Homai was here from KS Associates, it was recommended that we look into the debris netting as well as a fire alarm system. So we have been requesting quotes from companies who specialize in that aspect. I will tell you, it has been difficult to get those quotes, given the way the construction industry is right now, and also because of the unique nature of this particular building and the difficulties surrounding it. We did get 2 quotes just today. I got one from Shermer Construction for the debris netting and securing the exterior of the building. So that included a detailed inspection, so we know exactly where that netting needs to go and what the issues will be there. Is also the perimeter debris netting, so netting just along the entire upper portion of the existing building, all 4 sides. And then also repair of the northeast corner masonry and downspout, which is required to prevent further damage to that facade and those bricks falling. So that in total came to $88,500 for all of that repair. And then we received a separate quote for an alarm system from KLR Fire and Security. I think it's important to note that they said this is minimal protection at best. It is not NFPA 72 compliant, which I would have to defer to Assistant Chief Gall on exactly what the limitations are there. But it is considered spot protection at best. There is no electricity, there's no water into that building, so it's really difficult to put in a robust fire alarm system. So the quote on that was $12,458. So between both, again, this is one quote. I'm expecting at least one more additional for the debris netting as well as the fire alarm system this week. We're looking at about $100,000.
Through you, Mr. President, again, question to those. So who pays for them? And at that point,
so, Law Director Deary, if you want to weigh in on that.
Through you, Mr. President, yes, Mr. Oswald, the city would be fronting that money. However, we would pursue all avenues of collection against the present property owner, and that would include leaning the property, much as we would for demolition costs.
okay, and if by chance we wouldn't get that, we would never see that again.
That is a distinct possibility. Yes. However, it is a life safety measure.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. All right. Well, I appreciate again everyone coming up. I appreciate the passion that we have for this building. And you know, again, it's reiterating here tonight is that we don't want to see this building come down, but at this particular time, the building's under condemnation, and we need to move forward with that at this particular time. But again, there's still hope and opportunity out there to gather enough possible grants and funding to kind of keep this hope alive with it. So with that being said, I'll call for the question.
I'll call for the question. Roll call vote.
And just for the sake of the record, in accordance with Section 5.05 of the Charter, this would be a reconsideration. I would advise, as the clerk has stated, a roll call vote, and upon a sudden reconsideration, this would require a vote of at least 2/3, which would be 8 members.
So would that concur for the passage and the emergency and some suspension?
All you need to do is a vote, and should it pass, the ordinance 2021-102 would take effect, notwithstanding the veto, as if the veto had not occurred. Same effective date, same number for the legislation.
Very good, thank you. With that being said, roll call vote, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, quick question.
Yes.
So this is a reconsideration vote. That means that the ordinance stays the same and we vote
Yes.
the same or different as we feel?
Yes.
Yes, an aye vote would be would be to support the ordinance. And I vote would be to support, nay would be to vote it down.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Oh, no, oh, I didn't know if you had a question, Mr. Callahan. I'm sorry. Mr. Laco?
Mr. Callahan?
I'll say it again, aye.
Mr. Sierra?
Aye.
Mr. Oswald?
Aye.
Mr. Baird?
Nay.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Tolet?
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons?
Aye.
Mrs. Davis?
Aye.
Mrs. Keys?
Aye.
Jesse's not here. Mr. Stewart?
Aye.
9 ayes. The reconsideration has passed.
Okay. At this time, I guess, should we go into recess? If anyone, we've had a long meeting into this point, can we just make a motion to go into recess? And we'll come back and if proper.
Through you,
Protocol.
Mr. President, I would just ask, is there any other miscellaneous?
Is there any miscellaneous and other business that was kind of presented before? Anything more? Very good. At this time, I'll take a 5-minute recess.
What did we just do?
Test.
Okay, everybody, we're going to continue to come out of recess.
I'm sorry.
Balfit.
Balfit, no T.
No T.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I have everyone in the city council take their seats, please?
Is this a sugar cookie? Is this a sugar cookie? What, sherbet?
It's like a pink cookie. Looks like a pink cookie, but.
Okay. All right, thank you. Based on the law director's prior comments, we're going to go into executive session for pending litigation.
And personnel
At this time.
and real estate. Personnel and real estate and litigation.
All right, very good. For personnel, litigation, and real estate. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor? Moved by Mr. Baird, second by, who was the second, Mr. Sarah? Roll call vote.
Mr. Callahan.
Must have gone in his
He's in the building, I think.
We'll get him afterward.
We'll come back to him.
All right, Mr. Sarah. Aye. Mr. Oswald.
Aye.
Mr. Baird.
Aye.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Tolet. Aye. Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mrs. Davis.
Aye.
Mrs. Keys.
Aye.
Mr. Stewart.
Aye.
Mr. Callahan.
Aye. Very good. All right, so I'd ask that the general public, we're going to be going into executive session to be some discussion. I'd ask that you would step out of council chambers at this time.
And there's no legislation, right? I mean,
No.
do you want to say something?
And through you, Mr. President, no anticipated action
No
to
action,
follow.
no anticipated action will be taken at this time. If Mr. Henderson, we make sure that everything's off, any type of recording? Do we need to have the, hey, Corey?